What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode. Let's see. I want to just talk about this whole inflation thing, mainly about that post I did about why inflation erupted, uh, and the direction we're heading in right now. A little bit of a summary. I mean, it's we have a lot of shit thrown at us, this week, and we'll talk about that too. So, look, guys, the whole point of this podcast, I really hope to bring you at least one thing of value if you listen to it. Right? It's not fun for me if I'm just like rambling and then you're not gaining anything from it. So that's why I like to say what I want to talk about up front. So if it interests you, I don't want to waste your time, man. I think that's like the biggest thing is wasting people's time and not being able to deliver something back. Right? So straight out front, what we're going to talk about is this. We'll go through like, why high rates lead to unemployment, which lead to inflation coming down, and how that whole cycle works, and kind of like what they talked about as to why inflation is. And I'll give my opinion on it. And at the end, we'll talk about whatever the popular events out, like the popular events, like the attack on the White House. All right. So, essentially, they talk about why we're in the situation we're in with the money printing and the labor market being too hot. And look, guys, like I'm gonna give you guys like a crash course, right? So here's the thing: when quantitative easing came about after the Great Recession, that was the Fed's plan, where they were just going to buy the mortgage-backed securities. They were going to take debt out of the American economy, and they were just going to put it on the Fed's balance sheet. And in return, it was going to make rich people even richer in a sense, because all the they get cashed out, and there's always going to be a buyer for bad shit, which was going to be the Fed. And honestly, it worked decently until COVID happened, and literally the problem here is really like it was just a wham bam, right? It and what I mean by that, it wasn't just one factor, it was a couple of factors, right? Okay, let's break it down. One, you stopped the whole world from everything, right? So that caused everything to stop, supply chains to break. And then you flooded, and what I mean by you is like the Federal Reserve or the politicians, because the Federal Reserve is, you know, it only has so much power, right? If the government votes and says print the money, then the Fed has to do it, right? So we don't have people working, supply chains are breaking, and then we give everybody a lot of cash. See, quantitative easing, it it was only for the people at the top, really. If you had, you're a big banker and stuff like that, you had assets, you were selling them, like the money never made it down to regular people like me and you. When you gave everybody a $600 stimulus check, that made it to people like me and you. And I think that plus the supply chain breakdown has what's really caused inflation to obviously spike like crazy. The difference between us and everybody else in the world is everybody for now still needs our dollars, and that's the only thing that's saving America. If we weren't the world's reserve currency, we would be Argentina right now. We would be bankrupt right now. Everybody will look at us and be like, we got to get the fuck out of here, right? We got to get out of this dollar. But it's also, you got to ask yourself this question when people talk about de-dollarization and shit. It's like, where else are you going to go? What other government do you really trust? That's always been my argument. I don't trust the Chinese. I don't trust the Indian government. I don't trust the Russian government. So where else are you going to go? You're at the mercy of somebody's government, someone's paper currency. And for all the problems America has, at least I know I could have a trial here and not be just thrown into prison and locked up forever, right? That all being said, let's come back down domestically. So the problem of inflation. So what can we do? What have we done, and what's going on, and how is it affecting us? Those are the questions we all need to, or questions we have that we would like the answers to, or just have understanding so we could try to prepare, right? So when inflation is hot, there's only a handful of things you could do, economically, right? You have the government that could act, and you have the Federal Reserve that could act, and then you have the free market that could act. Those are really only the three main factors. The Federal Reserve can just control interest rates, and in return, interest rates start controlling the supply of money. The federal government can control, what they pass, like the New Deal, or building like a Hoover Dam, and and stimulating the economy in that sense and providing jobs, right? Or they could do nothing and they could cut back. And then us independently, those two factors could do nothing, and then we make our own decisions and things get smooth out. On an economic textbook, very simplified answer, but those are the three main levers that make the whole freaking world function in any society, for the most part, right? So obviously the politicians are still spending like crazy. That's adding to the inflation, which nobody wants to fucking talk about, right? That is a big factor. When you have government continuously spending and printing money and putting it into the economy, that goes against, it helps inflation go higher. Okay. Number two, when we talk about interest rates, this is what I meant in that post. Like, here's the chain of events. Raising interest rates don't allow people to borrow as much. Business owners have to cut back because their debt goes up. People start to get laid off. As people get laid off, they have less income. So we'll stop right there and I'll talk about that. So basically, let's say we owned a coffee shop. And let's say me and you, whoever's listening, me and you, we own a coffee shop. You're 50% owner, I'm a 50% owner. And you could replace this coffee shop with like every fucking business in this country, right? A plumbing business, a fucking, a gas station, whatever the fuck you want. Me and you have 4 or 5 employees. We're the bosses. We're also working. When we invest into our business, right? We bought a couple of coffee machines and we built up inventory and we remodeled or whatever. We borrowed money, right? Because you very rarely in business do you use everything all cash. You have some form of loan on the business to expand, to rehab, to put into the business. You need to have money going in. So what's going to happen now is, since rates went higher and me and you sit down at our quarterly meeting, we're like, fuck, man, let's say we know that our refinance on our commercial building is due in 2 years. We start prepping for it. Like, man, costs are going to go up, right? And we're like, what can we do now to stay profitable? We have to raise our prices a little bit because our coffee beans are getting more expensive. Everything's getting, so now naturally business slows down a little bit, right? And if we're like, okay, we're going to go, let's say we wanted to add a coffee cart because we wanted to take it to the fucking farmer's market, and we were going to hire another employee or have one of our current employees go handle that. Then we go look and we say, shit, a fucking coffee cart costs $20,000 and we're getting 10% interest. We're having to pay for it. It's not worth it. And hey, because everything went up a little bit, our business kind of slowed down. Let's let Joe or Bob go, right? We have to let them go. We can't afford to keep them. That's going to happen across the country, right? Because we can't borrow at a cheaper rate. We can't just expand and keep putting money out. Everything we're buying is getting expensive. And plus our own personal debts, like the mortgage we're paying, or not mortgage, but the debts we took out on the business, those are also going up as well because rates are up. So we have to start cutting somewhere. And usually when we start cutting, it's because business isn't booming, right? If people are still buying coffee like fucking crazy, it wouldn't really matter. But people aren't going to be buying coffee like crazy because across the board, shit gets tighter and we always got to cut back staff a little bit. Now we let poor John go. Poor John is, or David, or whoever you want to call him, right? Whatever. They're unemployed. And now that employee is going to struggle to pay his car payment, to pay his house, to go out and eat, on the weekends, go to Applebee's and have a beer or something like that with the boys, or, take their significant other out, right? They're going to struggle with that. So those businesses are going to start getting impacted. As you could see, it's going to lead to unemployment, a higher unemployment rate, right? When that unemployment rate goes higher, people, like I just said, stop spending less because you're not employed. You don't have money. You can't spend it. So then naturally things start coming down and you get to I guess you would say the mean, right? That's the best way I can describe it. Like, where is the market at right now for everything, right? And that's what we're trying to achieve, or not we, that's what the Federal Reserve is trying to achieve. By jacking up interest rates, their true goal is to watch unemployment rise. Once unemployment rises, then they can step back and then they're going to watch the numbers. And the fucked up part is data's always lagging. And that's what all these people are saying is like, bro, you've already raised interest rates enough, right? Don't raise them anymore. Wait what happens in the next 2 or 3 months and see, right? Don't just keep jacking it up. But the reality is, guys, this is the reality. It doesn't really fucking matter to the Fed. Like, Yeah, politically, it's bad if we go into a recession and unemployment goes up. But they have the tools to fix that, right? What are their tools to fix it? Not that hard. They slowly start dropping rates. And all of a sudden, our coffee shop will be okay. I said we have 4 or 5 employees, right? So let's say we go down to fucking only 2 employees and then me and you. We're like, fuck it, baby. It's grind mode, right? Like most Americans do. It's your business. You're not going to let it die. You're going to save it. And, let's say next year or, rolls around or 2 years, let's say rates still stay high because inflation's high and they're keeping it high and we feel more pain. Now we're going to have to make more cutbacks. But let's say that doesn't happen. Let's say next summer rolls around and we had to let 2 of our employees go. We let Joe and Bob go, right? And we only have like 2 or 3 employees left. And now we're just breaking even. We're barely surviving, but we're surviving. And overall, the economy got worse, right? That's why we had to let 2 go, not just 1. Right now, we let 1 go. Fast forward, we let another go. And now it's me, you, and a couple of employees. And, once unemployment gets really high and then the price of inflation starts coming down, all of a sudden, the cups for our coffee shop come down in price. All of a sudden, the beans for our coffee come down in price. All of a sudden, the water bill for our coffee comes down a little bit in price because the demand isn't there overall. There's so much more coffee beans because guess what? If people aren't going to work, they're not going to get coffee in the morning. They're going to be staying home looking at the classifieds trying to find a new job, right? So those prices are going to start coming down because supply is going to stay pretty steady, but price will come down because demand is coming down, right? So now we're okay. Now the Federal Reserve has the tools, and this is the tools they can fix with. They can say, okay, shit, we had interest rates right now are 8 or 9%. People are hella unemployed, and inflation's finally down. Let's cut the interest rates by a quarter basis points every single month for the next 6 months or the next 8 months, right? So that's 2%. It will cut down. Now we're at 6. Now me and you, the coffee shop owners, like, oh, we could breathe a little bit. 6%, we could afford to refinance and still float our coffee business and our building and whatever. Hell, that coffee cart kind of makes sense now. We should do it, bro. We should really go for it. The farmer's market is starting to boom now, right? As other businesses refinance at those lower rates, right? They get a little bit of money in their pocket. They can hire a couple of part-time people. People start getting employed again. It's just the cycle. This is known as the economic cycle. And on a regular economic cycle, the way it goes is usually 5 to 7 years. And then you have like this downturn every 5 to 7 years. You have that downturn for like, and the downturn lasts anywhere from like a year to 24 months, a couple of years. And then boom, the next cycle starts and it gets bigger. But then every, what was it, like 30 years, economically speaking, there's a big drop. And, with all of that being said, I will always say this to you guys. Once again, guys, my opinion, but I would always give you my fair and honest opinion of what I'm thinking, right? Who cares where the economic environment is? If you have a deal in front of you, if it makes sense to you and your math, you should probably still do the deal. Because the reality is there's never going to be a perfect time, right? There's never going to be a perfect time to do anything, and there's always going to be an excuse. Now, that doesn't mean you just throw caution into the wind and just go do it because you could do it. No, I'm still telling you to do your homework, do your due diligence, but don't let everybody fucking feed all this fear into you that you never buy your first rental. You never start your business. You never try to advance in your career. You never do anything because you're just so scared. It's like, at the end of the day, man, like the reality is we're only on this earth for so long anyway. So we understand that we're going through a cycle right now. Now that you understand, I think I explained it pretty well. I can sum it up again, but I don't want to beat a dead horse here. We understand that there's a cycle that goes through, and we just got to look at where we are. Like right now, we're at the tip of the beginning of the cycle. It's gonna get a little bit worse before it gets better, right? Once it starts getting better, we don't have to wait for that. You could buy stuff on the way down if the numbers make sense to you. Right? Like we know the Federal Reserve is not going to just cut rates until probably towards the end of the year. We know a lot of people are going to go through pain. But if you're looking around the market, it's not like it's going to drop off of a cliff. It's still going to take, it's lagging right now, right? So it's going to take time for reality to set in on the real estate market and for the businesses that are trying to sell, right? Like things just don't happen overnight. Like I say that, I have to reiterate that because I think it's confusion, because I think everyone's thinking like, here's the crash, it's happening. It's like that's not how it happens. You have like a week that goes down, a week that the properties that you're looking at move down in price a little bit, and it just resets the tone, right? And yeah, like I said, man, the biggest thing that we could watch for is the unemployment numbers, right? Of course, we got to pay attention to the Fed and if they're going to continue to raise or they're not. But the biggest metric that we should be watching is unemployment. As unemployment starts going up, watch inflation start coming back down. And of course, weird shit can happen where you can have unemployment up and inflation up. There's always stuff that could happen, because, at the end of the day, we're really trying to predict human behavior, right? And at the core of that human behavior, we have different incentives. One of my favorite sayings, I have a lot of them, but one of them is, you show me the incentive, I'll show you the result, right? If the incentive for credit card companies is to give you, hey, no paying 6 months, here's $2,000, that's your incentive. You don't have to pay for 2 or 6 months. And, your reward on that is, hey, I could go take that trip to Cabo right now. You're probably going to do it, because the majority of people are just going to do it, right? And then you have to deal with the consequences later. And that's what I'm trying to say with human behavior. We would think when we let our 2 employees from our coffee shop go, that they would pull back and they would say, oh shit, I went from making, $4,000 or $3,000 a month to now I'm on unemployment. I'm making $1,500 a month. I'm making half. I should cut all my expenses in half. I should buckle down. I should tap into my savings. But we don't know that. We don't know that. We don't know their circumstances. We don't know. What if there's so many variables, right? Like, what if they live with 2 other people and they're still okay, and they say, you know what, we're okay with just living like this. And they don't have the incentive to stop spending. They still go out and they eat and they still do whatever, right? And then, then all of a sudden, when the economy does turn around, we don't have a workforce because nobody wants to work, right? So like, I'm not saying what I'm saying is 100% true what's going to happen. Honestly, what I'm saying is what's supposed to happen economically by the numbers, right? Like, the numbers, the math is supposed to math, right? The 1 is plus 1 is supposed to equal 2. But in this complex world that we live in, that's not always the case, right? What are we starting to realize now? We're starting to realize now that a lot of people actually even move back home with their parents since COVID. And they realize, like, shit, we're saving a bunch of money. And, our parents aren't that bad when we could save 20 grand a year for not paying rent. Maybe we'll hang out with them for 4 years, save 80,000, and now we have that 20% that we could put down in our own home, right? There's that variable as well. And you're still seeing like individual single family homes be super competitive, because, at the end of the day, it's you got to remember, for single family homes, people aren't looking, the investment is the cherry on top that you get. People aren't looking at single family homes, or they shouldn't be, as an investment first. They're looking at it as a place for them to live and raise their family and enjoy. That's their sanctuary. That's their castle. That's their everything, right? So they're willing to pay more for it. So I don't expect single family homes to drop off a cliff. I do expect commercial property to come down a notch, because the numbers are the numbers. You can't just continue to pretend and extend, right? Just continue to refinance something that is underwater. It doesn't look good on your books. And those are really some of the differences. I know I said a bunch of shit here, and I hope you guys kind of followed some of it. Sorry, I know I was like all over the place. I just, it's hard to explain when we talk about what should happen economically. Like that cycle I gave you, right? Rates go up. Businesses now have to pay more to borrow money, so they borrow less. When they borrow less, they cut back on their own jobs. They fire people. People get unemployed. When people get unemployed, they spend less. When they spend less, things become cheaper because there's not that many people trying to buy things. And then the government can step in, cut rates, so then businesses can borrow cheap again, hire more people, and then people make money and they spend more money, and then things go up again. That's like the fucking basic cycle. But the last bit of it that I just gave you, like where there's so many independent things, right? People living with their parents or their aunts or moving in together, those are the factors that it's hard for us to model, because you can't model human behavior. You could attempt it, and to a certain degree of certainty, you could kind of figure out which way you think things are going. But that's what I'm trying to tell you is, like, it's impossible. There's never a good time. There's no such thing as like, this is the bottom of the market. You don't know. So for us as young investors, as people that are trying to make wealth for our families and trying to, do things in life, we just have to take the best chance that we think comes in front of us. Right. And sometimes it's not going to be like absolutely home run, but if the maths and you feel confident and comfortable that you're going to be able to pull it off, I would do the deal. And everyone's metrics is different. Everyone's desired rate of return is different. Like if you had $100,000 to invest today, maybe you're okay only making $5,000 a year on it. Somebody else listening to this podcast might be okay they're like, hell no, I'm not okay unless I make 10%. I got to make $10,000 a year on the 100. I don't know. Everybody's situation in life is different, right? And ultimately, we are at the mercy of the market because we can't force somebody to sell a piece of property to us, or sell a business to us, or force someone to sell their stock to go down so we could get it cheaper. We kind of have to be patient. We have to be patient. We have to understand. We have to know what's going on. Like, I think if you followed this podcast so far and you understood like 50% of it, you're like, okay, I get it, bro. I get it. Rates got to go up. Unemployment's Therefore, businesses are going to borrow less. Unemployment's going to have to go up. When unemployment goes up, things will get cheaper. Economy will come down a bit. And that's when I'm going to strike. It's a good plan. When do I think that's going to happen? I think after the summer. I really do. I think going into Q4 of this year is going to really give us a really good idea of where the fuck we really are in the economy, right? Where are we really in this economy? That's another 2 quarters that will be under the belt. We're in like what, Q2 or ending Q2 right now, pretty close, right? January, February, March, April, May, June, end of June, right? And we'll have this data and we'll have one more whole quarter data. So the beginning of Q4, we're kind of going to know where we were from today to how we're going to end the year. And that's going to give us enough data points to say which, if inflation's plotting here, it's still going up, right? If inflation's doing this, and then we know it's kind of going down, right? That's just one barrier. Or if unemployment's going up, we know, you know what I mean? Like, we don't have enough data yet to make that decision to know exactly when tides are shift. But I can tell you on the real estate front, a lot of deals are falling through. A lot of people are not being able to refinance. It's just going to take time, guys. You got to remember, not everybody refinances all at once, right? It all takes time. So it depends on the deals that people did, because there's 3 years, there's 5 years, and there's 7 years. So 7 years ago from today was what, 2016, right? 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So right now on the high end of the scale, we're refinancing people that bought in 2016. On the low end, it's 2018. And on the very low end, it's people that bought in 2019, 2020 are starting to refinance. So all these people fall in every day. There's a different set out of those years, and and it gets pushed forward. So everyone's having to refinance different things at different times. And there's a whole bunch of fucking intertwining and deals and this and this. It's very complex, but for simplistic views, we just got to wait. There's nothing we could do. We have to just wait and see which way the market is going. But I will say is, me personally, no, I'm not happy investing like $100,000 and earning 5% on it right now, because why would I do that when I could go park my money with Apple and earn 4% with no risk that's guaranteed? And I've always been a long believer in earning double what's free and economic standards. So if interest rates are, or if I could leave my money in the bank and I could earn 4%, if you want me to get off my ass and you want me to go take the risk on of a tenant, maybe have to repair a roof, file evictions, do all this bullshit, I better be making at least minimum 8%. Or at least if it's a great property with a bunch of upside, minimum, I should be earning 6% minimum. That's just the way I think, me personally. I'm not saying that's right. I'm not saying that's wrong. That's just what I think, right? And you have your own thoughts. You're your own person. You have your own opinion about how it is, and you're not wrong. That's how you want to do it. You do you, right? Like, it's not like we're all trying to grow wealth. We're going to grow it in different ways. There's no one way to grow wealth. If there was, that'd be crazy, right? There's so many different ways. Anyways, man, that's basically what I have. And I hope this podcast kind of helped, man. I really do. I hope it, maybe gave you a different type of understanding, or, something. Let me know, man. Shoot me a DM on Instagram, and let me know what you think of it. And I really appreciate the feedback. I'll wrap it up with the whole attack on the White House thing, and just, where we are. with all that. I mean, first off, that shit was an absolute joke, right? Like that guy was just freaking crazy. And I'll just leave it at that because I really don't care for it. I don't want to talk about it that much. I really don't because it doesn't really affect really much anything. The media was trying to run with it as a story, but it's a non-story. It really is a non-story. And what is the story to me is the fact that um, Ron DeSantis is now officially running, and it's going to be very interesting to see between him and Trump. And I know a lot of people are going to go back and forth on this, like, "Nah, man, you got to vote for Trump," or "Nah, man, you got to vote for Ron, better policies," or "Trump's better at foreign affairs." It's like at the end of the day, for me, I feel like it's a win-win. I'm happy to back either person, and I just want to wait for the debates. Let's see, where our country is at that time, and let's see, who is putting out a better plan, who's putting out a better plan, and what is their plan, and how do they want to go about it, right? Obviously, in a perfect world, it'd be great if DeSantis just ran as Trump's VP, helped him get into the office, and did 4 years. And then afterwards, Trump helped DeSantis, and then DeSantis picked another VP, and we get 8 years of that. That'd be freaking amazing. That'd be amazing. But can't always get what you want, And I'm just glad that we got at least two people. And of course, I mean, I'm sure there's probably going to be a couple of other candidates that we got to give a fair chance to. I mean, you never know, right? I don't know. I don't want to count anybody out, but I think it's a good time that we finally have good leadership that's stepping up, and I hope we can turn this country around, man. It's really our it's up to us to save it, right? It's up to us to pay attention and to vote, and it's ours to save or it's ours to lose. That's how I feel about it. And I'll end it with this, where I think in our lifetime, so if you're around my age, 30, 32, 35, and our age, I think we're going to be okay. But if we keep going down the path we're on, we will see the fall of America closer to the end of our lifetime. And that would be a sad thing. And, I don't want to see that happen. I really don't. And I've always encouraged people to stay attention politically. My only thing is just don't make it unhealthy where politics are your whole freaking life. And that's all you do. You wake up and that's all you do. And you go to bed. That's all you do. Every conversation you have is politics. It's like, look, politics are important. It is. But it's also just important just to ask somebody how they're doing and how their day's going. Right. And just having a good conversation that doesn't have anything to do with anything. I think that's okay too. And to learn about new things. Right. That's my only thing is like, I don't think it's healthy to be political 24/7. And I think you have to look at yourself and see like, okay, all I do is talk about politics, or do I have other, shit to talk about? And I don't mean that disrespectfully. If you enjoy it, good for you. I'm not trying to take that away from you. I'm just saying it's nicer to be more broad and have more to talk about. Cause sometimes in business, when I'm out meeting people and whatever, I don't ever talk politics, very rarely, because like, I don't want to, that's not it's not the vibe, right? We're trying to get shit done. But if all your depth and all you ever talk about is politics, when you're going to meet other people, you might miss an opportunity because maybe that person is a Democrat or maybe that person is a Republican. And then they're just like, man, this guy's a nut job. I don't want to be around this person, right? I just, word for whatever, man. Anyways, guys, I appreciate the support, man. Let me know what you guys think of the podcast episode, and I'll see you guys on the next one, man. Shoot me a DM and let me know, and share it with a friend if you can. All right, guys, take care.